interestingly enough, the research shows that with young kids, the duration of time that you spend with them isn't as relevant as the really focused time. And I know this sounds crazy, but if you're spending 10 minutes of really focused time with your young kids, that is more meaningful to them than if you're there with them all day, but you're just your attention is drifting all the time and you're scrolling through your phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's with really any relationship. But so, and then with older kids, actually, when they hit teen and older, the duration matters more. Interestingly enough, you'd think that it doesn't, but it does.
Which is hard because that's when they start to pull away from you and don't
drift.
want. Yeah.
Right. So sort of your focused presence and your conversations with them matter a lot during that frame. But yeah, I mean, we don't ever do devices at the table. Things like meal times are a really easy way to just say, hey, we're here, we're together. Even if we don't speak one word, there's no devices. And they don't have to talk. There's no forcing, but it's just like presence matters. And that also is modeling that human energy, like an energy exchange matters. And we talk about that sometimes. And then throughout the day, I mean, if we're together, I often really try not to be on my device, but it's hard because I'm also a working mom and I love the work I do. And right now, I have a book coming out. There's a lot going on. There's a lot coming at me that I have to be present for. But the key is to talk about it.
Okay.
I say to them like, hey, I realize I'm on my phone now around you guys more than usual. I'm juggling, this deadline for work. And, they often say to me, well, you can just go to your office and work. You don't have to hang out with. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Actually, I probably should. Right. And again, younger kids, a bit different. But even my 5-year-old, she much prefers if I say to her what I'm doing. And I also talk about this a little in the book. Like if you're looking at a recipe on your phone, just articulate it. Just say, hey, I'm looking at something right now that I'm about to cook.
Yeah.
Versus just looking at your phone while they're around or talking to you. Yeah. And you know what I mean?
Totally.
So just being open about it.
And how did you navigate? Sorry, I'm going to just totally pick your brain right now. And I think, you have 11-year-old, 13-year-old, and 5-year-old. How do you navigate this phone situation? Like, when do they get a phone? What are your rules around a phone? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, can totally share. I'm on the board of Common Sense Media on the LA Advisory Board. So I have a specific stance on this that might be distinct from others. Now, again, I do have to say that every family is different, but most kids' brains are not different. So people always say every it's all different for everyone. It is, but also a child's brain is still developing until they're about, even the prefrontal cortex until they're about 25. So no, my kids do not have phones. And that's not to shame anyone who does. It's just that, I have done a deep dive into the developing brain as a neuropsychologist and someone who really appreciates neuroscience. And my son is entering middle school and he's 13 and he will not be getting a phone probably until high school. I trust my son implicitly, by the way, and he's incredibly regulated. I would totally trust him with a phone. So again, some people say it depends on the kid. It depends on your circumstances. Yes. And I also want him to feel what it's like. Like a lot of people talk about safety, right? And it's like, how they have to get a hold of you. We grew up without getting a hold of our parents.
Yeah.
I want him to feel that feeling of not being so comfortable that I can get a hold of my mom at any minute. I know that sounds crazy and counterintuitive, but it is so critical for their brain to struggle a little bit, right? And to feel what it feels like to ask an administrator for a phone because I have to call my mom, or to even memorize my phone number.
Yeah.
Like we don't memorize anything anymore. So our brain, that part of our brain is kind of going into atrophy.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's a muscle. And if we don't use it, it kind of like,
we used to dial the phone.
I mean, so, so he has access to devices. Like he needs a computer for school. So we have lots of, we signed a contract, we talked about, and the contract is based on our value system. And I highly encourage people that if you are going to give your kid a phone or a device of any sort, talk about your family values related to the device versus actual device parameters.
Give me an example.
So an example. So it's like our family values connection over clicks or likes. And so what does that mean? It means that, or our family values, quality time versus other people's urgency. And so what that means to my son is that he might get a ton of messages, and he's always, because of his brain, and he's a child and he has decreased impulse control as he should, he's going to feel like he has to respond immediately and that he's missing something if he doesn't. So we're talking about those edges and how it's so critical to not respond right away, and that the right people will understand and wait, right? And by the way, as an adult, I'm learning that too.
I'm like, I know. I'm a child too, because I feel those same things.
Right?
Yeah.
But texting has evolved. Like, we used to text for immediacy. Now a text is essentially an email and can wait days. Yeah. Right? It's like, it's a whole new language. We get texts, we get DMs, we get emails, it's like WhatsApp. There's so much reaching out. And so that's what I mean when I say talk about your values, right? And it's like family time. Okay, that means we're definitely not on devices. Also, our family value is sleep. We cherish sleep. Okay, what does that mean from a device standpoint? We don't use devices before bed. We leave any child's device outside of a bedroom. My husband and I try to do the same now that our kids are a bit older. But it's hard because, like, I tell the kids, everything I do is on my one device. Our house security, our locks, my car. Like, I can't operate my vehicle without my phone.
Wow.
Right? I have an electric vehicle. So our life is engineered to be beholden to these things. And so, no, he doesn't have a phone, but he does have access to certain devices for school, and we're learning those edges now. My younger girls don't have much access, and that's tricky because they see their older, especially my 11-year-old.
No iPads?
Occasionally for reaching out to friends over the summer.
Oh, wow.
We do travel, everything's out the window. We have and occasionally, yes, educational stuff for school she has to do, but not really. And it's really hard.
You know too much.
It's really hard to parent that way.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it for everybody.
I was going to ask, like, for your son, probably most of his peers may have a phone at this point.
Yeah.
What has he come home and expressed, and, like, is there, like, begging for a phone? I admire someone who can stand so sturdily in your values and knowing what you know and really protecting your son in the right way, and how I'm curious to see how he's responding to that.
So the what has worked the best with him and talking through with my kids is actually explaining how the brain works.
Okay.
And reflecting to them when they are on a device, how they feel. And it's really profound. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss. So they focus on the behavior, they focus on the meltdowns right after you take the device away. They focus on, like, he's so angry all of a sudden, or why is he so exhausted, or what's happening. But they miss the piece of talking to their child about it. I'm noticing that you're feeling really stressed right now. Isn't that interesting how the device has made you feel that way? Do you think there's a link there? It seems to me like there is every time. And then, like, whoa, yeah, you're right. And so now my son says to me, God, I do feel tired after I'm on it for a while, or after a trip or something, and it's like he's able to now have the self-awareness to say, I don't even want it. I feel better when I'm not on it, or, and it's hard. So we talk through that, and we talk about why. We talk about the why. We talk about the brain. We talk about addiction. We talk about, because he's starting to hear about all, different drugs, this, that, and the other. And we do talk about how it does trigger certain parts of the brain that are very similar, if not the same.
Yeah.
And we talk about quick dopamine versus slow dopamine. And we talk about the critical importance of slow dopamine for a child's brain specifically versus those fast, like, I'm getting my hits with a device, with gaming, with messaging. All of that is the quick dopamine they don't have to work for. And so they've learned as kids that they don't need to put in effort to feel good or to get pleasure. We learned that we have to work at something, we have to practice something, And then once we get it, we feel good about it.
That's the slow dopamine.
That's the slow drip. And that's really what sets up the brain for success and to thrive. And the way that they're learning is very damaging.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that now in the generations that sort of have just now starting to grow up, that have grown up on devices. And it can be particularly tragic.